We all adore you, Gina. Well done. I do want to ask a question to Nikita Badarian and Jake Paul as well. Nikita, I'll start with you. What a moment for the company.
I want to give all glory to God for being here today. Mike, I respect you a lot, but Saturday night, my boy Nate Diaz is gonna kick your fucking ass!
I like to tell stories, and I think directing is where I want to go. Did you hear that, Netflix?
Subtle hint.
Diaz. Kicking from
Whenever fights with mass appeal come along, it brings in a wave of people who maybe never watched fights. They used to watch fights but fell off for whatever reason, or the casual fan. Personally, I think the MMA community uses the word casual fan far too much because I think there are a lot of fight fans that watch a ton of fights and just consistently have bad takes. And sometimes these kind of fans might lean more towards the betting angle of the fights, but sometimes not. I think of a casual fan as the one who tunes in for the big fights with recognizable names. The UFC in 2026, that can be a bit more difficult to identify because I think there are less fighters with mass appeal. Chael Sonnen, GSP, Brock Lesnar. I would even consider Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner, Conor McGregor, and yes, Ronda Rousey. What I'm getting at is when these waves of new viewers tune in for something big, you better brace yourself for what are going to be what we perceive as low IQ takes. It happens every single time, and Rousey vs. Carano is no different. I think a lot of people will understand this, but I know for a fact many of you don't. There are tons of people who just don't really know anything about the UFC. It has gotten better over time, but there are still people who need clarity when one says the UFC. Oh, is that the fighting thing? They fight in a cage? These can be younger people and these can be older people, guys. A lot of people don't know who Dana White is, but they might know Ronda Rousey. They may have seen some highlights here and there, but especially today, social media can be so specifically curated and you can craft together exactly what you want to watch and have it fed to you all the time. So it doesn't surprise me at all if somebody doesn't know jack shit about the sport. What's unique about Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano is that there is an audience that is familiar with Ronda Rousey. She casts a very wide net. Many of the fans were loyal to her. The hardcores like me are going to watch her fight because we watch every fucking fight, and the Netflix card is interesting. Ronda has a fan base that tuned in to watch her, and after she retired, they also stopped watching. So we're going to get these people back, and they're probably going to watch because it's on fucking Netflix. Had this been a pay-per-view, I don't know if we would have done as well. Maybe it would have done decent for a pay-per-view in 2026, but nowhere near the numbers they're going to get for Netflix. Let's also keep in mind that many people who are even kind of familiar with Ronda Rousey may have only ever watched fights at like a sports bar when they were inebriated and with a friend, or maybe an ex-significant other, but never got familiar with the UFC product during that time. Besides, if you tuned into a Ronda Rousey fight, it only lasted so long. Rarely ever did any of her fights go past round one, just a couple. I'd also like to point out that a majority tuned in for Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm and Rousey versus Nunes. You know, they heard about Rousey killing everybody. That's why viewership peaked during those fights. Then she got knocked out twice in a row. I should also mention maybe there are some fans that only know Ronda from WWE, but I don't know if that's a significant number. As far as Gina Carano, enough time I think has passed that no one really knows who Gina Carano is, not the fighting Gina Carano anyway. And those who did, I mean, come on guys, it was a flash in the pan during that time. Her peak viewership only lasted like a couple of years. But during a time when MMA was gaining a ton of momentum, that was 2008, 2009, and the rest know her from Mandalorian. But she's attractive, so that makes up for a lot of it. It was her appeal in 2008, and it's the appeal now. So Netflix, Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, and yes, even Jake Paul opened the floodgates for the fair-weather fans, the casual fans, and new viewers. And a majority of them think, or they thought, they were watching the UFC. They do not have product familiarity because they just don't watch. I know, shocking for some of you, but it is a fact. I can tell you this with 100% certainty. Doesn't matter that Bruce Buffer isn't announcing, that Joe Rogan isn't there, or that the canvas is black, or that there's a WWE-style LCD screen tunnel. Can I also tell you, a lot of people who don't watch are just more familiar with professional wrestling than MMA. This might not be the majority, but it's a lot of them. Add a gimmicky looking LCD walkout entrance to the mix, and even subconsciously, it feels a little bit funky. So Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano lasts 17 seconds. Ronda doesn't even throw Gina to the canvas. She double legs. Armbar, done with. Guess who is not surprised? People like you and I. People that are surprised or maybe even skeptical, not people like you and I. I think the hardcore and for the most part regular MMA fans are not surprised by this. Everyone else? Probably skeptical, confused, and maybe just think it's outright fake and moved on. And listen, there are definitely some regular MMA fans that tune in for a ton of fights that have a take that this was fixed. I think that's just the nature. I think just a lot of people have bad takes. You know what I didn't stop to consider is like, did people even know why these two were fighting? I mean, there were countdown videos and stuff, but the broadcast didn't do the greatest job of explaining it. And even then, I don't know if it really makes sense to a lot of people. They were both gone a long time and now they want to fight each other. It's a fight that could have been, but never was, and now here it is. I suppose that makes sense. What I find kind of funny is the hardcore fans and media saying, "I told you so," when the fight ended quickly and early. It's like, who are you flexing to? Or flexing on? Anybody who follows you already knows this. Now, personally, I left some room for like pageantry. Maybe Ronda would want to prove something about her stand-up, you know, maybe make it a touch more dramatic. Maybe. But since it wasn't, and it was all strictly business, shows exactly why this fight was not fixed. Because that is exactly how it would go down every time if Ronda executes a no bullshit approach to the fight. A fix is predetermined. Secretly arranged, someone agrees to something. That was not this fight. Some say it was rigged. These two are not under any obligation to the promotion. No one is forced into or pigeonholed into taking this fight. That was kind of the whole thing about this event. We are treating fighters fairly at MVP. Rightfully so, Ronda Rousey was highly favored, and obviously an outcome was highly predictable. If this fight was rehearsed, it would have looked ridiculous. You've seen these two act, and if you haven't, there's a reason for that. It does not look good, and that is with a script, and with months, if not years of production. We've seen them act, it does not look good. If you think this fight was fixed, I can understand the circumstances which would lead you to such a conclusion, because you don't watch. But it wouldn't look that clean. Earlier I asked, why are these two fighting? I know why. And sure, part of it is, it was a fight people did talk about. When Ronda was up and coming and even at her peak, it was mentioned from time to time, a Ronda versus Gina fight. It strikes me strange that some who claim to be tenured fans say that it wasn't. It was. Now, the hype for it and the anticipation around it was minimal, because Gina would ever commit. Sometimes you'd hear of talks with like Gina and Dana, but it never really culminated to anything. It also was general consensus, again, for fans like me and those who actively watched Ronda Rousey, that she would decimate Gina. Gina was doing movie shit. She used the attention from fighting to move to other things. There was no reason to go backward. We wanted to see Rousey versus Cyborg. Even Gina fought Cyborg. But that's the fight we wanted, and the one that was being talked about the most.
Is she going to be any less competitive than any of the girls she's fought? You know what I mean? The last fight, look at Alexis Davis. Alexis Davis is awesome. 16 seconds. You think Carano's going to be less competitive than that? 6 seconds?
I think
What was the fight before that with McMahon?
was like a minute.
How much?
It was like a minute.
A minute. You think Gina's going to be less competitive than a minute or 16 seconds? You know, she did a damn good job against Cyborg, and Cyborg was a little jacked up on Mountain Dew in that fight, you know what I mean? And she's the one that started this whole, women's MMA craze, and Ronda wants to fight her. Ronda has done everything that we have asked her to do. You know, this is like a GSP situation when GSP asked us for Diaz. You know, how would I say no to GSP? Ronda wants this fight bad. Next week, I have a meeting with her on Monday. I'm pretty confident.
Ronda Rousey's career didn't end the way she wanted it to, and her relationship with the media and fans tanked because of how she handled her losses. Anyone around for the buildup of Ronda versus Amanda Nunes remembers this too. So Ronda comes back against someone with a name and a pioneer in Gina Carano and gets to leave on a win. She can remind everyone who she is, or who she thinks she is. At the very least, she can tell everybody who she is. She gets that one last taste of fame. The fans do as well, and now she is arguably in a better spot to either do something else, whether it's a fight or promoting or making comic books or whatever, or go back to retirement. She is now in a better position than she was before. Gina Carano, same exact thing. I'm not going to go into the politics of what Gina Carano said that got her canceled. So she comes back after a settlement with Disney, and essentially what I think this is about is vindication. Look, I may have been beaten down by the system, but I am not broken. I am stronger than ever. I stand by what I said and who I am, and to prove that, I'll get into the cage with one of the all-time greatest to ever do it in women's MMA. Stand before the media and stake my claim. Look where I was, look where I am now. And by the way, if anyone is listening, I'd really like to act again, or maybe even direct. Wink, wink, Netflix, wink, wink.
Did you hear that, Netflix?
So that's what they did. Gina Carano was not going to win this fight unless Ronda Rousey made a mistake in trying to compensate for something or putting on too much theatrics. Gina Carano spent a very long time just getting into shape. Fighters who actively fight and who are in shape will tell you there is a difference between being in shape and being in fight shape. There is no way Gina was in fight shape. I think Gina came in with a game plan. I think she trained for all the scenarios. She was at a great camp. I truly believe she did wake up at 3 a.m. and she thought of all the ways in which the fight can go, and I think she tried to prepare for that the best she could. But so did everyone else who fought Ronda Rousey, and these were active fighters. Last couple of things now that this event is over. I enjoyed the card overall. Reminded me of Strike Force and a bit of Bellator, kind of like a hybrid. Production was good as far as in-arena looks. I respect Mauro Ranallo and what he does, but ever since he started doing Jake Paul events from the beginning, just not a huge fan of his style these days. I don't know what you would call it, like these figures of speech, hyperbole, these idiomatic comparisons, like he tapped faster than a credit card or
More tired than Firestone. Perry attacking the body like it's filled with candy, and the crimson mask begins to envelop the face of Nick Diaz.
I get why he uses them and I admire the creativity, but the older he gets, the dumber they sound, and it's just constant. And I know that's my personal opinion, and maybe that works for some people and for the masses, but I think I strive for a much more minimal and subdued approach to commentary these days. I want dead air from the commentary booth. I want that void to be filled with the sound of the crowd and the sound of the feet on the canvas, kind of like Pride. And I know Mauro was in Pride, I know. It's different. I love a two-man booth though, but Mauro can sometimes really count for two people. The pacing sucked, so we got too much Ariel Helwani, and fighters are so terrible at talking anyway. The last thing I want is more of that post-fight. Too much Ariel everywhere. If he's going to be involved, I wish it was more so in the storytelling aspect leading up to the fight, which he did do. Because Netflix MVP dropped the ball on that. Their promo packages and explaining who these fighters are during the live event but pre-fight was terrible. And granted, they're not going to get clearance for using any of the UFC owned media, but still. Tell a better story, especially with the amount of time between fights. I enjoyed the prelims, like David Magoyan versus Albert Morales, which I think was really good matchmaking. It was a challenging fight, but appropriate for him at his level. Should have been talked about like the other good fights, the good matchmaking on the card. I love the black canvas. I thought Nate's blood looked awesome, almost cartoonish kind of on the black canvas. I liked it. Not a fan of calling it the hexagon, just call it a cage. I get why they do it, but it's too diet UFC sounding for me. I don't mind the hexagon itself, because if you use an octagon, then the broadcasts are going to say octagon, and then they'll have to pay the UFC for infringing on the trademark. Just call it a cage. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm looking for a promotion that does better storytelling, more unique ways of telling stories with creativity, less bells and whistles, fabricated beefs, and all that garbage. Make it look cool and keep it minimal. They can do way more with a more focused and impactful approach because they won't put on as many events as the UFC. And then, of course, less Jake Paul too. You let him talk too much and he sounds stupid as fuck. But anyways, I think it was a really good event. I look forward to more and I hope they do more. Fuck yeah, Doo Ho Choi. That was awesome. I picked him to win. I wanted him to win. And kudos to the opponent for gassing out, doing way too much, but it was entertaining. Matlock out. Breaking news, MVP's first entry into MMA delivered on a massive global scale and exceeded every expectation we had for the launch of this new chapter of our business. Over 12.4 million viewers around the world tuned in live on Netflix, with viewership peaking at almost 17 million during Rousey vs. Carano, making it one of the most watched MMA events of all time. In the United States alone, the triple main card averaged 9.3 million viewers and peaked at 11.6 million viewers during the main event, making it the most watched MMA event ever in the US. The event also generated over 410 million impressions across MVP's owned social channels, a live gate exceeding $2.2 million, and saw terrific commercial premises distribution across bars, restaurants, casinos, and hospitality venues nationwide. We're incredibly proud of what was accomplished alongside our partners at Netflix and grateful to the athletes who helped make MVP's MMA debut such a success. We've received an overwhelming amount of interest from investors, strategic partners, and fighters who want to be involved with MVP and the future of MVP MMA. We are currently reviewing all strategic options to do something very meaningful within MMA on a go-forward basis, with a distribution partner like Netflix that shares our vision to create lasting impact. That's from Nikisa Badarian and Jake Paul, co-founders of MVP Promotions.